All right, you guys, we are back with another episode. Today we have on a guest. Her name is Mercedes. We connected via social media, which seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of my guests here. Today we are going to chat largely about Hi-Rox and what's going on. So she's a regional manager for Hi-Rox. I'm excited for her to share what that looks like and then talking about where Hi-Rox is headed, the goal of it, the crossover between the CrossFit community and Hi-Rox, and just all the things. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Before we dive into that, I would love for Mercedes to share a little bit about her story, just background, fitness, being a parent, mom, like the whole thing, and then we'll dive into it. So with that, tell us who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Again, social media seems to be the way that people are just kind of like crossing over and learning about new stuff. So yeah, my name is Mercedes. I am the regional manager here in South Texas for Hi-Rox. So I cover all of South Texas, a little bit of Louisiana as well. So my region's growing, Hi-Rox is growing. And we have regional managers kind of all over the country. They're based in a lot of our race cities as well. So there's always somebody kind of like activating within the cities. Um, I also coach at a local F45 here in Houston. I've got a 12-year-old boy who is super active, which is the biggest reason in which I stay active because I have to continue to beat him in both strength and speed for as long as I can until I can't anymore. Yeah, spend a lot of time in and about the fitness community here in Houston. I think I've seen more of Houston and met more of like just the community around here within this last couple years. I've been with Hi-Rox for about 2.5 years now. So I've seen, again, more of Houston than I had the 25 years I lived here before that, which I absolutely love. Got to meet people all over the state, really all over the country, because I've gotten to travel a little bit. I'll actually be in Vegas in a couple weeks for that race, so that's going to be fun.
Cool.
Yeah, but outside of that, I stay active in all different types of fitness communities and get to raise my 12-year-old boy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So before we dive into all that, I think this is important to hit on because there are a lot of parents out there juggling being fit and being a parent, right? And that's something I try to hit on with my social media too, because I know it can be really challenging. So, how do you balance that? Like, what does that look like for you? What does your training look like? Do you ever struggle with like the guilt? You know, like, hey, I'm working out and I'm not spending time with my kid, like that whole thing, because that's
Yeah.
another ball of wax. So, I'd love for you to share some of that. I think it could be really encouraging for people out there.
Yeah. I think that's kind of evolved over the years and the age at which he is now. He gets to stay home a little bit more by himself. I can run in the gym for an hour, come back. When he was little, it didn't look like that. It looked like a lot of going on walks and being in the garage and kind of doing whatever movement you could do alongside them. So if they're riding their bike, then you're going on a walk. So I think obviously the type of movement and the type of fitness for me has evolved. I was lucky enough to kind of get into an F45 when he was 2 or 3, and they had like a little kids area. So I was able to bring him. He sat really well and just watched. And so for like 3 or 4 years, it was just a lot of him watching me, which then in turn, I think is the greatest way to then get your kids into fitness and the mode of them just wanting to move, whether or not they're moving perfectly or not. They're also 3 and 4 and just want to jump around and be crazy. But I do feel like that was a huge part of why he enjoys all things fitness right now. Like he'll ask me to race him all the time, or we'll go out and throw the football or whatever it is he's wanting to stay active. And I think, and he hasn't told me this, but maybe when he's older he will, is because he's seen me stay active in these last like 7 to 8 years.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I do think that there's something to them seeing what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we lead by example, the good and the bad. But even Maverick, my son, like he talks about wanting to work out with me, and he talks about his muscles and all the things. And he doesn't really even understand the concept of
Right.
working out. Yeah, he's 3, but he sees it, and it gets ingrained in them, into their
Mm-hmm.
subconscious. So I think that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah.
Your son watching you over the years.
Yeah, and I've been able to use those situations where we're out on a walk or throwing the football, and that is what I've used intentionally to start conversations about random stuff. Like, asking him, it's not just he walks in the door from school and asking him how his day is, because that always turned into it was good. Like,
Yeah.
just the basic stuff that a 12-year-old middle school boy wants to share. But when we're throwing the football around, that opens up conversation to other things that are happening at school or with his friends and stuff like that. And really tried to take those intentional times to turn it into something not just about the movement, but then we get to kind of
Yeah.
get to know each other a little better
No,
while we're doing something like that.
that's actually I want to stay on that point for a second, because I think that's really good for people to hear. So you've found that sparking up a conversation with your son and really figuring out what's going on is easier through doing something, like doing an
Yeah.
activity, rather than just like sitting down and being like, hey, tell me what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
So okay, so what
It's
did
much
that look
more
like?
to, he's much more open. And I don't know if it's going to be with every kid, but with him, I found just open to just having conversation and sharing things as he's doing something else. And I don't know if that's just a mindset thing, or he's busy with, throwing the football or running around, that his brain isn't really thinking about not wanting to tell me things. And it's just kind of flowing. I also think I've started that open communication with him from the beginning. We're very open with each other. He knows a lot that's going on in my life. And I, by me sharing things, and I usually start with that of how my day went or something special that happened or something that I maybe didn't happen that I wanted to have, the disappointment, all those different things. And I feel like I try to share that first, or open that conversation with it first. And then that opens up him to, again, feeling like he can share about the different things that are going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially for, it seems like around that age is where things just get really complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep. We're getting there, and I'm trying to like make sure that push past that little, because I think, you can get stuck in that age group where they don't want to. And it's like, if I can continue what I feel like continue to push past that boundary, it might keep that communication open going into the high school years. So that's the plan. We'll see if it works or not.
no, I totally get that. Do you have any other kids right now?
Nope.
No, just one.
Just one boy. Yeah.
And what sports does he play right now?
He's in the middle of water polo season, so that goes through the summer, and then he'll pick football back up in the fall with school, and then water polo is usually year round. So he swims, plays polo, and then football
I
in the
love that.
fall.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Water polo is no joke. Like that is.
it's yeah. I started swimming when I was 7, so swam all the way up until high school. Got to high school here in Houston, and they were like, "You gonna join the water polo team?" And I was like, "I sure." My mom thought I was crazy. She was like, do you know what you're getting into?" I was like, "My friends are gonna do it with me. Why not?"
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, I knew how to swim, so that was about the the baseline of what I needed, and I knew how to throw a ball, so it helped.
Yeah.
But it was rough. It
Yeah.
was also, I think we only had enough, like they were recruiting us freshmen because they didn't have enough for a team. So it was like the 3 freshmen they recruited were for 2 people on the bench. So it was like we were getting our playing time in for sure.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, treading, because like treading water just with your legs, like as you're like looking to, oh my gosh, that is, people don't understand. If you've never done that, it is so hard.
Treading water, staying above water while someone's pulling you underwater.
Oh my gosh.
It's,
Do you know,
yeah.
so are you feeling, you know who Noah Olson is, right? He's a CrossFit competitor, done
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
11 times, whatever. So his background was water polo. And so he had this
Oh,
huge
oh,
aerobic
that's
base,
huge. Yeah.
just strong legs, enduring legs. And it really makes a difference if you have a
Yeah.
foundation like that growing up. When you get it older, and if you want to step into a sport like Hi-Rox or CrossFit, whatever,
Right.
like that foundation it's so helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't, I mean, not that it doesn't go away, but once you, I mean, you can build that for 10, 15 years when you're a kid, and it stays like I can, it takes me a minute once I jump back in the water or do anything, getting into Hi-Rox has really helped. Or I feel like, has helped having
Yeah.
that background, but
Yeah. So let's dive into Hi-Rox. So first, you're a regional manager. What does that look like? What's your day-to-day job look like, and what's the mission of Hi-Rox in that capacity? Because I'm very unfamiliar. I just know it's a
Yeah.
race people are doing.
Yeah, so lots of different components to Hyrox. The race is kind of one singular like facet of what Hyrox is. And so the company itself is a German-based company. We started in 2017, blew up in Europe. We came over to the US to start some races in 2019, right around when 2020 hit. So it kind of stopped the excitement and momentum there. But really, 2021, end of 21, is kind of when it started to pick up again here in the US. So I hit a Dallas race in April of 22. I wasn't working for the company at the time. I just had a couple friends from our F45 that wanted to jump into it, felt like using their fitness within F45 was great. Just all the stations are stuff that we do in classes all the time. So it was just kind of like an easy transition over, unless you don't run like me. I swam all my life and I was like, I don't need to run. I have the endurance to swim all day long.
Yeah.
I really needed to run a little bit more. But my first race, I finished again. I think I only used F45 for most of my training, got in a couple runs. But that was the great thing about Hyrox was there's no time cap on it basically. So you go out and you start when you start at the start line and you just finish whenever. They're not going to leave you at the convention center and be like, okay, bye, finish,
Oh, really?
finish on your own. So that was a fun part. I think I had a couple friends there, but my mom was there. My mom and my son were like the only ones that were like, let's go. They didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, but yeah, knocked out my first race. And after that, I don't think outside of my mom and my son, I don't think I went a lap around that convention center during the race without somebody encouraging me, whether it was an athlete on the course. Our start line MC name is Danielle, and she was constantly out there just like encouraging people as they went through. People, like spectators that are right next to you while you're doing the lunges and you like cannot get up from another lunge, they're yelling at you to keep going. And so I think the excitement, the encouragement, just the culture that was built around Hyrox just like lit me up. Just kind of got a new fire lit underneath me for fitness and what I could use my current like training regimen for.
Yeah.
And so I jumped in and I was like, hey, I reached out to people that I knew from Hyrox and I was like, hey, I'm in Houston. What do you guys need? What can I do? Like, how can I grow here? I know Dallas is huge. That's where I had just raced. And so I was like, what can I do to help build the community here, grow the company, like whatever you need. And so they kind of, they jumped me on board with the regional manager team and I was in from there. So yeah, day to day really just looks like we've got Hi-Rox training clubs. That's the second kind of facet around the company itself is we've got the big races, but then outside of that, we've got about 1,200 training clubs around.
So like a gym centered around just training for Hi-Rox?
A couple of them do. Most of them are Hyrox training clubs that are built into already established, whether it's a box, whether it's an F45, whether it's, like a boot camp style gym. So it's really a lot of Hyrox inside of already established gyms.
Yeah.
And so whether they run Hyrox training, Monday through Friday, or whether they just do Hyrox kind of once a week, they have some, each community has a different training layout. Whether again, they're doing it once a week, they're getting everybody together twice a week. So those Hyrox training clubs are, built within already established gyms.
No, that's cool. So is it similar to like to CrossFit and like you pay an affiliate membership and then you can
Yep.
run the class inside your gym or wherever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And you get 1,200 of them?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually crazy. I didn't realize it was so big.
1,200 in the US. I think we hit over 5,000 at the end of the year of 2024, like in the world. So
Whoa.
we're growing. It's really, this last 18 months has been insane, which again makes my day-to-day job even crazier. But wouldn't change it. Being able to talk to gym owners, get to know them and their space and whether Hi-Rox works for them or not. That's really what my, again, day-to-day kind of looks like.
Yeah.
We have a lot of our Hi-Rox training clubs that run local events. So outside of that one singular race in Houston a year, we've got a couple gyms here in Houston that run their own like in-house Hi-Rox style competition. So I did one a couple weeks ago that was very similar to what the Hi-Rox race looks like. It's just they kind of change it up.
Yeah.
We all go out and we get to pull from all the different Hi-Rox training clubs around Houston, and we all get together. There's probably about 100 of us out there. We competed, had a good day. You know, you get to see everybody that you don't normally get to see every day from all the different groups and communities. And that's usually the fun part is getting to see everybody that you don't train with them every single day.
Yeah.
But you come together, and I would assume it's kind of the same as CrossFit. You're doing, you're training day to day, maybe next to some people, but you only get to see certain people when you head out to different comps and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, that was actually, so when I first started competing, my first ever competition, it kind of surprised me. There were so many people that were like saying hi to each other, like competitors, like, hey, what's up, blah, blah. I didn't know anybody. It was my first year competing. And then the next year when I made it back, it's like I lived that experience. I was like, hey, what's up, dude? Like I was saying hi to all these people, and then I was like, oh, like now I get it. Like
that's what that,
yeah,
that's how that works.
Competitions, and you build like a relationship that's once a year when you see each other.
Yeah. Cool. And with social media now, you just, you keep up with each other throughout the year. And then you get to, are you going to this one? Are you going to be here? You rate, like next weekend in Vegas, I'm trying to figure out like who's going to be in Vegas. Cause just to see that, people from New York and Florida and California, like we're all going to go.
Yeah.
To Vegas.
A question. Is there any sort of, I guess I know the answers because I signed up for one in April. But do you guys do any sort of qualifying for events or not yet? Like you can just sign up and go, and then your time will just rank you whether you're, ranked with the pros or not. Or do you guys have events where it's like you need to qualify to go compete at this event or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have one qualifying event, and it's the World Championships. This year it'll be in Chicago. Last year it was in France. The year before it was in England. So we kind of jump around. Exciting that it's actually in the U.S. this year. It was actually in Vegas 3 years ago. But yeah, so the World Champs, you can qualify a couple different ways. We have the Elite 15, and so it's the 15 fastest men and women across the world. And their qualifying process looks a little different. There's a couple different major races around the world. They have to race in a couple of those, average their times, and then they can be put into the Elite 15. Wow. Outside of that, every race, so Atlanta in April will have a certain number of world spots open per age group and then per division. So like the pro men from 20 to 25 might get one spot. The pro men from 30 to 35 might get two spots. And so you just have to be those top two people, and then you get that automatic spot to Worlds. Worlds, you can qualify in the open divisions too. So 30 to 35-year-old men in the open division might get one spot, but when you go to Worlds, everything is pro weight. So even if you qualify in like the open weights, everything at Worlds is all the pro weight. So it's a good surprise.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit heavier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the heaviest things get? Because again, all I know is it's the same events, like same movements at each race, but I know it's heavier. Like I know there's a sled push. I know there's walking lunges where you're holding dumbbells, right? So you get
a sandbag.
Okay, so you're holding a sandbag. How heavy is the sandbag for pro division? 150? 100?
The pro men, no, you're looking at, I think it's 60.
60 pounds or kilograms?
Pounds.
Okay, so that's not terrible. How
No, it's not too heavy. So let's see, if you're going through, I guess maybe I'll just share top to bottom what Hi-Rox is. So you're looking at 8 1K runs. And in between every run is a movement station. So your first station is going to be 1,000 meters on the ski erg. Your second station for the pro men, you're looking at 430 for your sled push. Your third station's your sled pull, so 335 on that, I believe. Burpee broad jumps, 80 meters of that. So you can
80 meters it's no joke.
It's nope. That's usually where it'll get people. Now with that one, you can take huge broad jumps and less burpees, or you can do more burpees and smaller jumps, which is what I normally do because those jumps kill you pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. The fifth station is going to be 1,000 meters on the rower. Number 6 is the farmer's carries. I think you're looking at 70 pounds for the men's pro.
Yep.
Sandbag lunges. Yeah. Back rack that sandbag. I believe at 60. And then your wall balls are 20 pounds.
That's 100
wall
reps.
balls. 100 reps. Good movement standards on the wall balls. I'm going to break 90 on that squat. Well, your hip crease has to break your knee crease is what the rule book says. So,
well, if you don't, do you know who Andrew Hiller is?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sure do.
he'll be watching, and grandma
he'll
didn't
get you.
parallel. Yeah.
Yep.
He's funny. He makes good points, but he's a little ridiculous.
Yes. A little bit. Yeah. So that's your race. So that's, I mean, once you finish that last wall ball, run across the finish line, and then your time's done. So you wear a timing chip the whole time. It tracks you everywhere you go. So it tracks every single one of your runs. So you can the data from that's really great. So you'll see how fast your runs are, how fast every station is. And then kind of helps you again from there. Then you get to figure out if you do another one where your weaknesses were, where your strengths were, where you can kind of speed up or slow down. So the data from that's usually for me pretty great to kind of see. I've been able to compare. So I've done 11 races so far, and you can just kind of see where you're at on all those races.
Hunter McIntyre, he's the world champion, right? The three year in a row world champion right now.
He did not win this last year.
Okay.
Alexander, I cannot say his last name.
Is he from Europe?
Yeah. He won this last year. I think Hunter got 5th, if I'm not mistaken. But he was in, and what Hunter's kind of said is he was in that phase of figuring out like strength over speed, like figuring out what makes it like, do I need to get, extra bulky? Like how will that affect my running? And so he was kind of figuring that out is what he said this last year of,
Interesting. I find I find that interesting for him to say because he's already really strong. Like I've seen him deadlift and squat, and the weights on that workout are like they're not that heavy.
They're not. Yeah. They're not needed to be. Yeah, we're not looking at. I mean, yes, the sled push is 400 pounds, but
with a sled that sounds like a lot if you've never pushed a sled. Yeah. But with a sled and you're pushing it horizontally, it's totally different. It's not.
You get in the right position.
Yeah, it's the sled pull at 330. That'll get taxing on your arms. Like that's a little different. Sled push, it's not as bad as it sounds.
And a lot of people will do that sled pull, like as a leg, like
reach way out
back with it, basically.
Yeah, that's the most efficient.
That like learning sled pull technique and like burpee broad jump techniques. And then obviously just getting wall ball standards down is kind of the 3 biggest pieces of that race that people kind of get hung up on. Like I got stuck on the sled pull a couple years ago for like 12 minutes. I was about to be done. I was like, you know what? I'm out. I can't do it anymore. And then someone came over and was like, no, you have to keep going. Okay, fine. Sure.
Like, no, I don't want to.
There's a lot of race left, and I've been here for a long time.
Oh, man. Yeah, that can be really discouraging. Dang.
Yeah.
But at least you finished it. You did it. You kept it.
I did finish it. That was my first pro women race, and I was like, how am I going to get through the next? It's like knowing I have another at least 45 minutes left of that race. I was like, how?
Yeah.
I did it.
You just keep moving. That's it.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Okay, so I have several questions still, but like what I'm wondering now is what are the times for like pro women, pro men? Like what did the guy who won the world championship, like what was his time on that whole workout? He's sub
I believe they're going, most of the elite 15 are going sub 1 hour at this point. I think he went a 55 or a 56 at Worlds. I think the world record right now, Hunter has it. I think it's a 53. A lot of the world records are being taken basically at like the, just the regular races, kind of sometimes the major races. The world's elite 15 races are set up in like a grid style. So they have a lane and they're not necessarily the fastest courses. Every race is exactly the same. You're hitting the same amount of running, you're hitting the same amount of the station work, but how the courses are set up can kind of vary a little bit. And so that kind of can make the, world record at a 53. He's never hit that again. But yeah, average time to complete the race is about an hour and a half. So again, elites are closer to that hour, that 65 minute mark. A lot of the world qualifiers are kind of under that 70-minute mark.
Yeah.
Doubles are probably about the same, right about that 62 minute. Getting pretty close to keeping those under an hour, which is just some really fast running.
Yeah. Well, that's the crux of this style workout is you got to be a good runner.
Yeah.
I mean, 8,000 meters is a lot, so you've got to be moving.
Yeah.
There's a lot
on some really, really heavy legs.
Yeah. And there's a lot of time that can be lost between like running at like a 6:30 mile pace and a 7:30 mile pace.
Mm-hmm.
Like that will really start to compound after all that run. Yeah. It makes a big difference. So what's the biggest critique you've heard of Hi-Rox so far? Like, do you have haters on the competition, and like, what are they saying? Do you know?
We do. I feel like there's been a lot of, and I mean, CrossFit says it's Hi-Rox starting, the drama, and then CrossFit's going to say, the other way around. I think for the most part, I mean, I've gotten to do tons of Hi-Rox style workouts inside CrossFit boxes, and when I meet people in person, there's not a lot of that. And I think it's a lot of social media. It's a lot of clickbait type videos, which again is what it is. And I think it both blows up Hi-Rox and CrossFit at the same time. So not mad about it. If you're going to, kind of have that mindset behind it, we'll take the exposure, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
in the best way possible. But I think neither of us are trying to be the other one. Hi-Rox really wanted to create something that was inclusive to everybody. And so, the base of our company is a fitness race for everybody. And they separate those two words on purpose because it is for like every body type, every athletic ability, every, like, no matter where you're at. They created the stations and the exercises to be all functional movements. You should be able to push, pull, carry something heavy, do a lunge, do a squat, like all of those basic movements were put into a race style. So yes, we can go all the way up to the Elite 15 who are running under an hour and doing this race extremely fast. And we have people finishing in 3 hours because they're out there, they're walking, they're trying every single time to get their knee down on their lunges. And I think that that's where some of the hate might come in, is because it is so inclusive that not everybody is being held to the standard that the Elite 15 are, or that everybody else is. And so that kind of that's kind of, I think, where the muddy part is it's great that everybody can do it, but if you can't get into a full range lunge, then some people think that they shouldn't even be allowed to compete, which if someone's out there trying and they're going as far into their range of motion as they possibly can, at the end of the day, they're not going to Worlds, but they also came out here and they ran 8K and they did 8 exercises and they finished in 3 hours. And that's more than a lot of people were even willing to sign up for and show up.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. That's where I think it's frustrating, because like context is always so important, and I've said that on my past podcasts. Like, it is always context dependent. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, that person who can't get their knee down in lunges, like, are they trying to make it to Worlds? Are they like, they're just there to do something? So it's like, let's lay off, let's relax. We don't need to like no rep them and make this a dramatic thing or whatever. It'd be different if they had signed up, like going to a CrossFit competition and they're in a division and they're like willfully cheating to like do it faster. It's like, okay, that's different. But if you can see they're struggling, It's like,
Yeah.
dude, like lay off. Like it's okay.
And I
Um,
think that there has been some, and I think that that might be where Hiller is getting some of his stuff. But there has been um, situations where some of those faster top athletes aren't hitting the movement standards, and they are or might be getting those spots to worlds, and that comes down to us and our Hi-Rox as a whole, making sure that our judges are trained and volunteers are willing to know rep people, because that's where it really comes down to is if we have people that are volunteering and we love them and we really you cannot run events and races like this without judges and volunteers,
yeah,
but if they're not willing to like be vocal enough to know rep people, then that's kind of where the muddy water comes in. And again, we are as we grow and as these races get to um, the New York race in May has 15,000 people racing, so that's going to require an insane amount of volunteers. And that also comes with, we don't want to pull Joe Schmo off the street to volunteer. Like we're really trying to build the volunteer base and the judging base off of people who are ready to really know rep people and at least hold
yeah,
them to the standard at which they can actually hit.
yeah,
Um, so that's,
yeah. Does each person have their own judge, or is it like a judge is like what's the ratio? I guess like you got 15,000 people. How many judges and volunteers will you have? Like 1,000, and so like each person's in charge of seeing like a few hundred. Like what's that look like?
each station's going to look a little different. We probably usually, let's see, wall balls, you're going to have a 1-to-1. So you're going to have a person counting for you. Um, every single person's going to have someone there watching the squat depth and watching the target hit. Every other station's usually going to have a handful of volunteers kind of like just spread out through the station. So just kind of stationed through the burpees where they're watching to make sure that your hands are placed by your feet, that you're not shooting yourself out forward on that burpee. So not 1-to-1 in all the other stations, but your wall balls will get like a 1-to-1 judge.
Yeah. Now, if you're a competitor, are you labeled as like if you're trying to compete, are you labeled in some way that you are a competitor? So a judge will see like, okay, this person's like trying to compete and go to worlds or do whatever. I'm just thinking through like, I wonder if that would be, helpful in some way to like make sure that they're not cheating. But I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
They do usually, and sometimes some could be kind of caught in the mix of all the different divisions and heats they send out. Typically, the first heat's going to be our fastest group. And so they usually have 3 or 4 head judges that are following those first 4 or 5 people
Yeah.
because they are going to be those fastest and they are the ones that are typically going for worlds. Again, we could have somebody that randomly signs up, a couple weeks before, which is not happening now because races are selling out months in advance, but could have somebody in the third or fourth heat that we may or may not know that they could be surprising themselves and they could be running, that 65-minute race and they didn't have any idea. It might be their first one. Who knows? There's a spot when you sign up that like you pick what you think your finishing time will be. And when you first race, nobody ever really knows. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm going to do 70 minutes. And then, you get 90 minutes and you're like, wow, I was really,
I was very wrong.
yes.
Okay.
But so for the most part, we're watching those handful of people that are in that first like heat of the division. And they have a couple head judges that are kind of following them along to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. Otherwise, it's just kind of judges that are watching throughout.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I can imagine it's a logistical nightmare trying to figure that out. Like, you want it to be inclusive. Obviously, it's a business. You want to make money, so you want people to be there. But then you also want to hold a standard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man,
Yeah.
how do you do that? So, like, I'm sure that over time, it will just continue to evolve and change and
Yeah.
get things.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got an incredible global team that is, as we grow, our United States regional manager team has grown this last year. So then we're kind of helping in the involvement of what to do like on site at our own races. And then of course, the global teams just as everything grows, just as business does, figuring out the best way to manage all of these different areas and the judging and fairness of, these qualifications to world, because it does, I mean, a lot of people take it very seriously and they want to make it to worlds, and it's a huge goal for them. And so making sure that we're doing everything that we can, one specifically in Houston for my race, and getting volunteers, and we are turning a little bit into some of our Hi-Rox training clubs are actually going to be like taking over a whole station. So maybe a whole gym is going to be taking their members who have been well versed in what, a wall ball should look like or what the burpee should look like, and they're being trained for that specific station. And then they're kind of housing the volunteers that day. And we're having athletes inside the stations, which I think at the end of the day is really going to help.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That'll be really cool. Wow. You said this earlier, and I want to go back to it. You said that Hi-Rox does not want to be CrossFit. Like that's not their mission. Their mission is to be something totally different. And the reason I want to hit on that is because my perception of it before, like, even having this conversation and conversations with other people, was like they were trying to duplicate CrossFit. And so my critique was, yeah, but it's just not skilled enough. Like, there's no muscle. Like, so you don't have that component.
Yeah.
It's heavy enough, so you're not testing strength. And so my perception was, if Hi-Rox wants to become like the test of fitness, they're going to have to do X, Y, and Z and change it up and blah, blah, blah. But hearing you say that that's not their mission, it's like, okay, so it's an entirely different goal and demographic. So I don't know, maybe you can hit on that a little bit, but like that was just my perception from the outside looking in.
Yeah, again, I think the and I like the word inclusivity, like to be able to offer a test, a fitness test for anywhere from, you can sign up when you're 16, and we've had 75 to 80-year-olds, so there's the range there. And again, being able to simply do those 8 movements and be able to run, whether you're 16 years old or whether you're 80, kind of opens up the door for any of them to jump into it. I think it looks a little different in CrossFit. Now, can you still walk into a CrossFit at 80 and be able to complete a workout? Yes,
sure.
Because there's scaled options, there's modifications, there's everything within whatever, they're not probably doing handstand walks, and that's perfectly fine. They may not be doing, they're just going to be doing shoulder taps, whatever that looks like for them. And so again, like you said, we're not trying to take over CrossFit. There is 100% still room for both, I think. And I don't know, again, it's just there's crossover, and we're seeing a lot of CrossFit athletes compete in Hi-Rox. I don't necessarily see a lot of them transitioning over yet, and like that being the only thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
I think you can, and a lot of CrossFitters are using their training that they've been doing for the last year to 10, 15, 20 years of CrossFit. You can easily transfer that over, do a Hi-Rox race, see where you're at, and then go on back. It doesn't necessarily work the other way, but we're also not trying to do that either.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Are there sponsors that are part of Hi-Rox? Like the top guys, the top athletes. Like, how are they making money? Are they making money being competitors in Hi-Rox? Is it through sponsorships? Or like, what's the work for Hi-Rox?
So, people like Hunter, I'm sure, have different sponsorships through different companies. I know Meg Jacoby is currently our women's Hi-Rox champ for the last, I think she's got, just this last year, because Lauren Weeks was the 2 years before her. But like, she's sponsored by Puma. Puma's one of our sponsors, and then I think she's sponsored by a European supplement company called ESN. And so that, she's been able to get out of her corporate job, which she was doing not less than 2 years ago. And now she's kind of switched over to being a fully sponsored athlete, which I think was, part of her, her goals. And she's a single mom raising I think she's got a little 10-year-old girl too. So that was, something that I've been able to watch and see in her of, quitting the corporate world and doing something that she really loves. And again, having her daughter Mila watch her at Worlds, and that being like a huge driving factor for what she does. And off topic, yes, but yeah, they do have a lot of the athletes do have like different sponsorships and stuff like that, which I think is how Hi-Rox is growing, and they're being able to grow their own personal brand as an athlete. And
Yeah. What's the winning if you win like for Worlds Pro Division? What do they win? It's like 50K or something like that.
um that is a good question. I don't remember last year's. I know it's been growing. That prize pot is getting bigger, which is exciting for them. I do know that it's the Elite 15 that get the prize pot. I don't believe any of the age group winners get any prize pot.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
The Elite 15. So because I'm 32. So would I have to compete in the 30 to 35, or if I have a fast enough time, can I compete in the the young gun division or whatever?
No, you'll be placed with those 30 to 35-year-olds.
Okay, and is there still an Elite 15 within that, or is that an age group that wouldn't be?
The Elite 15 is kind of everybody, so it can be any age from there. So you have to typically we've had a couple people that have this last season just jumped into Hi-Rox, and is magically they're just again fast and surprising themselves that they're great. So once you race in like a Atlanta race, and your time may be one of the fastest in the world, then you get invited to race at one of the majors, and then from there, from those major races, like I think the Vegas is one of the major races. So Friday night they'll have the top 15. So they don't put the Elite 15 kind of in and amongst the general population. They'll do their own race on Friday night. They get the course to themselves.
And you could be 45, and if you have one of the fastest times, you're in that.
I think her name is Kate. She is it may not be Kate. I should know all of our elites, but I don't. But she is 52, I believe, and she's in the Elite 15.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's always the women, man. The women, you women are crazy. It's awesome.
She's 52. I think she's got 4 or 5 kids, and she's a beast of a runner.
She just suffers.
Yep.
Crazy. So awesome.
It's crazy to watch her, and I think she'll be in Vegas, so I'm super excited about that.
That's cool. Wow. Yeah. That's encouraging. That's really exciting for people as you like age out of maybe lifting super heavy, because I think there's a cap on that at a certain point. You can still lift heavy, but like to put in volume, like CrossFit volume lifting heavy, at a certain point it's like, is this worth it? So it's encouraging to have something to step into at an older age and be able to crush. And like
still being able to use everything. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's really exciting. So for you, I want to bring this back to you. What is your goal in do you have a goal in Hi-Rox? Are you like trying to compete? Do you want to do the thing, or like are you just what's your goal?
Good question. So I've raced in I think every division I possibly could have: open and pro women, mixed doubles, women's open and pro doubles, the relays. So I've kind of dipped my toe in everything. I love the mixed doubles division. Pushes me to do, because the women would have to do the men's weight in the mixed doubles. So I'm pushing the 335 pound sled and pulling the 225. So I'm being able to be pushed on the strength side. So I've done a couple mixed doubles. I love it. I've also been dealing with a knee injury the last year, and so that's kind of taken me out of the trajectory I felt like I was that first year. I got in a couple races, felt really good, and then hurt my knee. I think it started when I ran a half marathon untrained. So just PSA, don't go run 13 miles.
That might do it. That might do it.
So that started it, and then I've just been having some just weird knee pain, and so I actually raced again in Dallas in November, did my second pro women's race just to kind of see where I was at, test my knee. Why I needed to test it in the pro women, I don't know, but I tried, and it was great. Why not? Yeah. And I had like the knee pain started happening about halfway through the race, so half the race was pretty miserable. Just had a lot of emotions that I'm out there by myself. There's people around, and I've met so many people over these last 2.5 years of Hi-Rox. Not one time did I go around a lap running without someone yelling my name, which is exciting, and I love it. And I don't know who they are half the time, but I'm hearing, I'm listening, like it's great. But I was super emotional out there, just wondering if I was ever going to be at that level that I was, a year and a half ago without the knee pain. So personally, trying to figure out what's going on with my knee. I think it's a nerve issue. Still figuring things out. Would love to be kind of back at the top of my game in the next year or so. But like we just talked about, there's 52-year-olds in the Elite 15. Like I have time to figure out what's going on and kind of get that fitness level back to where I want it to be. The pain only happens when I run. So I can lift as heavy as I want and I can do all the strength exercises, but I also have to be able to run 8K. So
yeah, that is really unfortunate. You only
top of the list.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's hard.
So personally, trying to get back to where I think I can compete again, only 32. So I think being able to take another year or so to really figure out what's going on, build up strength, build up that running and endurance, and just that base level of what I feel like I've lost. And then I've got a couple years, I think Meg's 33 or 34. So she's, world champion at 34. I've got time.
That's cool. Yeah.
I got some time.
Wow. Awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. And I think on, the professional level of Hi-Rox, Texas is one of the biggest markets right now for
Really?
Hi-Rox. We've got Dallas and Houston race every year. So we ran 6,500 athletes in Dallas. In November, we'll run about 8,000 here in Houston.
Dang.
In a couple weeks. So last year's Houston race, we were at about 2,500, and now we've tripled basically, up to 8,000 this year, which is very exciting. And so I think really just building the Texas market. I'd love to have more Texas races, but I am not in charge of that. I cannot have any control over the races. But I would love to see, bigger Texas races. New York's the other biggest market because there's a lot of people up there.
Yeah. When is the next Dallas race? So the next Dallas race is coming up when?
So Houston's in March.
Okay.
Dallas is typically, we haven't announced the fall Dallas race, but it's typically in November.
Oh, okay. All right. I see. So it's still a ways off.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So we got time for that one. But yeah, Houston hits. We've got Vegas in a couple weeks, and then we'll have Houston, DC's after that, Miami, Atlanta will hit you after that, and then New York.
Yeah. And are all these already sold out?
Houston's about 95% sold out, but everything else is, all the other races are sold out.
Crazy. Wow.
We might have some good news about Atlanta coming out, but I can't share that yet. So
little teaser.
Little teaser. But yeah, I think New York sold out. Our Hi-Rox training clubs actually get like a 48-hour early access. So anybody who's all of the different gyms and stuff like that are within our program get early access. And then, so they got 48-hour access for New York. Then we released tickets to the public at 9 a.m. on a Monday. And by 9:15, it was sold out.
Jeez, that's cool.
So between like the early access between all the gyms and then 15 minutes in the public, 15,000 tickets gone.
Man, that's insane.
So
you guys, Hi-Rox definitely found a great business model. Like for the inclusivity. Good call.
They've done a great job building it. They've done a great job, from the top down. It's been a great company to work for. Growing with them has been an experience. Starting from, very, very small. I started in 2022, so just super small, and now we're big, and being able to again grow with them, which has changed my job role kind of throughout the years. But it's been exciting. Yeah.
I mean, geez, that's only 2 years. I mean, 2 years from where the size they were to massiveness now. I mean, that's a fast growth trajectory.
Yeah.
Wow.
This year, this year we're looking at, doubling our hopefully doubling our Hi-Rox training clubs, maybe a few more race cities, but really just trying to hone in on the race day experience, which I think everybody typically has a great experience on the race day. Some may or may not, but
Yeah, depends on your enjoyment
depends
of.
on how you cross the finish line, maybe.
Yeah,
But
all,
again, almost everybody crosses that finish line. Um, it's a great experience on the day of. I think the biggest part of Hyrox and what we've seen happening is yes, the 1 day race is great and you get, thousands of people together on 1 day, but we're seeing so many communities being built
yeah,
outside of that 1 day where they're meeting, some of their now best friends. And that's how I found one of my best friends now for 2 years is we started training at a gym, and now we spend almost every day chatting and talking, and it's not even about Hyrox anymore, but it's how have found a ton of great friends through the just different groups of training and community. And you get to do that day in and day out, and then you get to go celebrate by racing.
that's so
I
cool.
think that's a celebration. A lot of people may not agree with me, but I do.
No, I would agree that it's definitely a celebration.
Yeah,
Yeah, once you get into it and you find enjoyment, you realize like it's just so much fun.
agreed. Absolutely.
Well, cool. This has been a really great conversation. This is actually really helpful for me just to learn stuff about Hi-Rox, especially doing
Love it.
it in April. I'm excited to throw down and see where I stand. I really have no idea, so
Right.
that'll be super fun. But it's also really encouraging to hear that you're still getting after it, and you're a mom, and you're doing the thing and prioritizing fitness and life and trying to be a good role model. So it's really cool. I think people will get a lot from this.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that, like I kind of said at the beginning, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters what you're doing, going on walks, going on a bike ride, going, go do something interactive. I know, we've got all the different golf simulation places and baseball, so like just moving your body, I think is an incredible thing to do every day, whether it looks like just getting in a walk or doing a couple squats, or all the new moms that I see doing squats with their baby or whatever it is, they're
Yeah,
just moving. And somebody said this to me not too long ago, that like gravity's not going anywhere, so like we're gonna have to continue to learn how to move. And
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to keep pulling you down. You got to keep fighting against it. That's it. It's 100% it.
Yep.
Well, awesome. If anybody wants to reach out to you on social media, what is your social media handle?
It's gonna be Mercedes Ashley. Ashley with an I. And that's a funny story. People either think that Ashley's my name or they think that's my last name. It's actually my middle name. I don't have my last name on a lot of things because I used to be a high school teacher. So I took my last name off of a lot of stuff just so my kids couldn't find me on social media. I didn't want them seeing anything or thinking that they could be friends. And I've just never changed it. So I'm Mercedes Ashley basically everywhere.
Cool. Gotcha. Yeah, I'll link to it in the show notes too if anybody wants to reach out and ask questions. So,
Love it.
well, thank you for your time. This was a great talk.
Absolutely.
We'll do another one sometime. Hopefully, I get to see you at one of these events. Maybe.
Yeah, my plan is to be in Atlanta, so I'll
Cool.
see you out there. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Awesome. All right. Then I'll definitely see you then.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
Yep.